Welcome back, Spurs fans, to another episode of Casa De Spurs. I am Steven, joined by my co-host here, Mr. Danny Sanders, Danny Sandoval. What's up, man? How's it going?
Life is good. I cannot complain. Good to be back on the pod, and I'm ready to talk some Spurs.
Yeah, let's talk about these Spurs. Man, I feel just like a lost San Antonio Spurs fan right here. These are some trying times, you know. And their juju starting to rub off on us here at Casa De Spurs. We tried to record last week, and we had a mix-up in our schedules, and then we had some internet technical issues. I think we started like the podcast like twice last week, and then so we're here trying to knock this out. But anyways, yeah, the Spurs have had some bad juju. As a matter of fact, when we were recording last week, one of the questions I had was oh man, I have a dog that's going crazy in the background here. One of the questions I had was about Derrick White, and I was like ready to hype him up, and you were like, bro, watch the game. And then I watched the game, and then of course Derrick White went down. But dude, how painful is this Derrick White business?
It's not good, man. It really isn't. And it's funny because we were doing the podcast, and you were asking me questions about Derrick, and I kind of just started throwing you some faces, and you're like, what in the world? Because I think you hadn't seen the game yet. And the thing about it is, I mean, that was a great game, down the wire, overtime.
Yeah.
DeMar barely missed that game winner. But yeah, whenever Derrick went out, I think you kind of knew, like, win or lose, we kind of just lost him for the entire season. And I think we found out 2 days afterwards, that we did. And it's a shame because he was really starting to come around. He's getting his rhythm under him. He finally started to look healthy again. And I'll tell you something about Derrick.
Yeah.
Great guy. I think this is his 5th year. He was drafted the year after DeJounte. This is his 4th year. So he's never really been able to stay healthy. He kind of has that injury bug that kind of follows him. But because of his playing style, he kind of gets in there. He takes charges. He gets aggressive. He's not afraid to get up into people. It's not surprising, but at the same end, it's like, hey, I mean, I want to see Derrick healthy, but unfortunately, we won't see that this year. We'll have to wait till next year. Maybe Team USA. Maybe he'll be ready by that time. I don't know, by the summer. But it's unfortunate because he was really starting to round into form. And I think overall, he's probably our best player overall, defensively, floor general wise. Probably our best shooter, I think. Maybe behind Patty whenever he's not deciding to go frozen on us the last 15-20 games. But he it's a significant loss all the way around, and I really feel bad for him.
Yeah, and I think just an amazing year this guy was having. He really is the one guy on the team that can just do so much of everything. I heard somebody say he might be their best player. That somebody was me. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if we're ready to just say that he's our best player, but man, he's so talented all around, but he is also like the heart and soul. You know, I've called him Manu 2.0 so many times, but he really is in so many ways because he has like these freak injuries like Manu does, but he's also putting his body out on the line. And I just really hate to see this happen to him because I also think there's a narrative that's starting to creep in about him that he's injury prone. And look, that's not any fault of his own, but man, that is something where you're just like, dude, I hope this is not his label. He's too good. He's too talented. Yeah. I hope that that's not his label where he's considered injury prone.
We'll have to really worry about that if next time he's on the floor, he busts a nut and he's out for a month or two.
Yeah, that'll
then maybe we can worry about that one.
That'll be the tall tale, or I guess that'll be the end all be all right there if it comes down to that. Meanwhile, the Spurs basketball continued on, and man, they lost. They've been in overtime a lot lately. I feel like, I mean, they had a Wizards game, which I think that was the game where White went down. And then they had an overtime game against the Celtics, and we could talk about that. That was kind of the end of end of the season.
Oh, man.
But then they had the 76ers, which, again, I felt like the 76ers didn't really play until like the last 2 minutes of the game, and then it went to overtime.
Yeah.
But, man, that Celtics game was like – that was it. It all ended right there.
It's funny because I think I had mentioned on Sunday, I kind of went off the grid over the weekend, much needed break, kind of disconnected. But I did watch my game, did watch the Spurs where I was. They did have direct TV. So I watched the game, watched the entire game. And the first half was incredible. It was like everything that Spurs Twitter was wanting to see out of this team, out of the young guys. DeJounte had it. I mean, he was cooking. Everyone was cooking. Everyone couldn't miss. Everyone was aggressive.
That was the Spurs team we wanted to see.
Exactly. It's the Spurs team that we've been just dying to just see put it together. And for the first 24 minutes, they did. They put it together, and they were spanking. I think a disappointing Celtics team, but I think they're still a very dangerous Celtics team. I mean, I think they're I think they have a very similar record to ours. They're certainly in the playoffs in the East.
Yeah.
But they have that firepower of Tatum and Brown.
Sure.
I know Kemba Walker wasn't playing that night, but they still had two of their best players.
Yeah.
And to see them go up 32 points by halftime, I was thinking, okay, so we're going to win this game. We can win that game, come back on Sunday, beat the Sixers. Hey, we might climb up to the 6th seed, maybe kind of do some damage.
Yeah.
And then third quarter happens. They start to lose a lead a little bit, and but I'm still like, you know what? It's going to be fine. No way the Celtics are going to come back from 32. And I think the end of the third quarter, we're still up by 15, I think, 13 or 15.
Yeah.
And then the fourth quarter, there's a total collapse.
Just fell apart.
Yeah. It was bad.
I also think, like, it's actually been really hard this year to be upset with any of the players. Like, I mean that, like, in total fairness. Like, you can get upset with, like, a few veterans for some of the decisions that they've made. Obviously, there's young guys who are making young mistakes. So if you're one of those people, like, you can be a jerk and blame a lot of stuff on the players. But
yeah,
bro, I don't know that. I think this has been Popovich's worst coaching job I've ever seen him do. And that's a bold statement. But, like, when you blow a lead, like 32 points to a Celtics team that they have talent on their roster, but come on, these are not title contenders. Like, they're a very, like, middle of the pack team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
32 points. And that's not just 32 points. That's 32 points in the second half. Like, that's a coach thing. That is a coaching thing. We've seen the Miami Heat give the San Antonio Spurs crazy problems out of a zone. Like, that's a coaching thing. And then, you see the game. I guess I just feel like the season kind of culminated after that Boston Celtics loss, and you could kind of see it on, like, the face of the players. Like, they were just like, wow, it's come down to this. And then the following, what was it, like 2 nights later, they played against the 76ers. And of course they sat everybody. Like, that was a throwaway game. And
it really was. Yeah.
But that's what happens in the NBA. You rest all your guys, and another team's at full strength, and they're just not prepared to play against the bench team. And so it always ends up being a closer game than it should be. But really, it was like the Spurs kind of got, like, a little glimmer of hope, and then Joel Embiid, like, the guy was just goofing off for the whole game. He was shooting step back fadeaways. But as soon as the Spurs, like, let themselves try again, they just lost all steam, man. But, man, I feel like it's time for Greg, man. It's time. He has run his race. He's been a good soldier. He's been lovable. He can go down as the greatest coach in history, and it's still not, like, his time is still past. Like, it's end. It's at the end.
I think here's the thing. I think those 2 games perfectly encapsulates the season, right? The Celtics and Sixer game. And I know, the Sixer game, we sat DeMar, we sat DeJounte, and we sat Jakob. So, it's not a true representation of the full entirety of the team. But I think those 2 games sum up the way the season has gone perfectly, because we see a beautiful first half out of that Celtics game. The just unmitigated disaster. And you know what? I was actually glad I was in an area where I couldn't listen to the radio. I didn't turn the TV on again after that game, because I don't I didn't even want to hear just sports talk and anything
Right.
else talking about the collapse of the Spurs and
Yeah.
what we did, because I mean that's historic
Right.
to give up that big of a lead. I think, I mean, the last time a lead was that big was given up was maybe 5 or no, I'm sorry, I think I want to say like 12 or 13 years ago. It was the Kings and Bulls, if I'm not mistaken. But
Gross.
I mean, that's a historic collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And I see them come out on Sunday already kind of waving the white flag. And
Yeah.
I almost felt this way. I would not have been surprised had they came out with paper bags over their head to
Yeah.
start the game, because they're still embarrassed. You can still
Yeah.
kind of see it on their face. Lonnie Walker, he kind of took a little bit to kind of get started a little bit. Patty was playing in there. Keldon, I mean, Keldon's always Keldon. But there was a little bit of like, hey, I mean, I can't believe we did this 24 hours ago. Now we're back at it. Can't believe
Yeah.
we gave up that lead. And you and I have played competitive sports, maybe not on an elite level, but I mean, whenever you play the game, right? Whenever you play the game, you rack up a 32-point lead. It does something to your ego, to your pride, to lose that lead,
Yeah.
lose the game. I mean, these
Professional
are
or not. Yeah. They're professional,
yeah.
but still.
Yeah. So I mean, go ahead.
It was a painful thing. And I just think you could see it in their body language. And, you know, there's been so much talk this year too about like, you know, who's getting the minutes, right? Like you have one camp who is either just let the young guys play. And if they lose 70 games or 72 games, fine, as long as the young guys play. And then there's other people that are like, well, the Spurs are kind of like, I think I'm in this camp. I'm in this camp that says at their peak, the best the Spurs could have been this year, they probably could have peaked at a 6 seed. They're still probably like, they could have added like 1 or 2 pieces, and maybe they could have jumped up to like, I don't know, the 4th seed if everything went right. But the reality is at the end of the day, they're a 10th seed. Like that's what this team is. And we can split up minutes of, you know, who's getting, it's not just like,
Yeah.
I'm looking right now, you have Lonnie Walker, who's getting 25 point. Let me see. Let me make sure I have this right. He's getting, Patty Mills he's number 7 on the team at 25.3 minutes a game. Lonnie Walker is at 25.2 minutes a game. They're literally separated by 0.1. Rudy Gay is at 21.9, so he's about 4 minutes less. And then the next guy is Devin Vassell at 16.1. So it's like a 5-minute difference there. So it's not like Rudy Gay and like Patty Mills is basically playing half the game. Rudy Gay is not quite playing half the game, but it's what minutes they're playing. That's the part that we have to focus on. We are seeing, it's almost like these guys like Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, you know, take your pick guy, Luka Šamanić. I'll throw him out there because he started a few games. These are the guys that you want your future on. And Popovich is like, okay, I want to get my growth in there. But then at the end of these close games, he's playing Rudy Gay and Patty Mills down the stretch of these games, which they're losing. And so they're a 10th seed. Now, after playing those guys, Luka, Devin, probably Lonnie, these guys have not gotten the valuable, I put valuable in air quotes, the valuable minutes that they need. They need those closing games minutes. They need to make those mistakes in the closing minutes of games against, you know, the Washington Wizards, the Utah Jazz, whoever these teams are. That's the experience that they're getting. So I don't care that Rudy Gay plays 22 minutes a game, or I don't care that Patty Mills plays 25 minutes a game. But I do care very much so about who's playing the last 6 minutes of the game. And that's the part that's bothering me right now, is because the Spurs are still losing. They're still at best the 10th seed. And they're probably, I don't even know, I think they could lose the rest of their games. And I don't think the Pelicans are going to catch them. So they're the 10th seed. So I would almost be like, hey, let's get Patty Mills his 25 minutes a game, and let's get Rudy Gay his 23 minutes a game. And then at 8 minutes left, fine. If you want him to finish with DeMar DeRozan, that's cool. I get it. DeMar DeRozan's in a different tier than Patty Mills and Rudy Gay. But those guys need to be finishing the game, and especially now. Otherwise, what have we done this season? And that's the part that I struggle with.
No, I'm right there with you to an extent, right? But yeah, it kind of goes back to that old Denny Green statement, the old coach of the Vikings. They are who we thought they were, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, they were. I mean, they totally played above their heads like the first a month and a half or 2 months of the
Sure.
season. I think
Yeah.
at one point in late December, maybe early January, they were like a 5th or 6th seed.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing really well. They were looking really good. I think they just come off beating the Lakers and the Clippers in LA. And I think a lot of us started saying, hey, you know what? This team can really do something. Let's start looking at the trade deadline. Let's see who we can maybe pick up. Can we pick up maybe a big man to where we can kind of be a little bit more versatile up front?
Right.
And we started to kind of trick ourselves, or maybe kid ourselves a little bit, to thinking that this team was a contender. And I think we could probably all agree the game, whenever we started the Rodeo Road Trip, we started it really well. And I think it was the second game against Charlotte. We beat Charlotte, and actually at that time Charlotte was playing pretty well. And after that game is when COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
After that game, COVID hit,
It all went
and we were
downhill.
off for 2 weeks, and it went to it went to garbage. It went downhill, and we've never been the same since then. But I don't think it was all COVID. I think part of it was COVID, part of it was the rhythm. But again, this is who they are.
Right.
This is who they are, and they're not going to. We can't expect them to play at that level the whole time, because again, like you were saying, as far as who do we have on this team? We have the youngest team that we've ever really put out in 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And then some vets that pop. I mean, God love him. He probably is going to go down as the greatest coach of all time, but at least these last 2 or 3 years, his Achilles heel is the fact that he cannot let go of his vets.
Yeah.
He has an over reliance on them to the point where he just trusts them, right? And you know what? I mean, God bless him. He wants to win games, all right? I can see that. He wants to win games, but I think he's really just mismanaged as far as deciding, hey, in this situation, I need to play this person or this player. When he really should have said, you know what? At this point, we have our young guys. We have DeJounte, we have Derrick, we have Keldon, we have Lonnie, we have Luka, if you want to add him in there. We have Trey. We have a whole team of young, talented players that need time. They need experience. They need valuable time. Let's let them grow together, get some time together, get some invaluable time, grow ourselves to the draft, and then let's let the chips fall where they may.
Let the chips fall where they may. My concern is the reason that Gay and Mills are seeing so many minutes at the end of crunch time is because they're going to be back next year, and they're just going to really run the whole thing back. Except the only difference is that they're going to have another 12th overall pick or something.
We like the group we have, right?
We like the group we have. Yeah. Hashtag we like the group we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to just talk real quick about Lonnie Walker for a second.
Yeah.
Now, Lonnie Walker's your boy, and I understand that. Yeah. But I guess I don't know, Danny, if we've ever had a guy that's been more polarizing than Lonnie Walker. You get people either love this guy. I mean, I've heard him described as everything from elite. Now, Lonnie Walker's 22 years old, so keep that in perspective. But I've heard him called elite. I've heard people say he's going to be an all-star in 3 years. I've heard people say that he has the potential to be a Hall of Famer. That
was me.
Was that you? Oh, even better. Okay.
Yeah, that was me. I think the hottest it takes was I said that he has the potential to be a top 15 player of all time. So it's not just an all-star or Hall of Fame player of all time.
Of all time.
That's me.
And
I claim that one.
I love that you're gonna just own that too, bro. But I've also heard people go on the other side. I've heard people say that this guy is. I've heard somebody say he's going to be out of the league in 5 years. I've heard some people say that he's, he needs to go back to the G League. The point is there's a wide range of what Lonnie Walker is. Lonnie Walker is actually having a very I think Lonnie Walker is having the most important year for anybody in a Spurs uniform this year, and that goes for DeMar DeRozan, who we got to figure out what's going to happen with DeMar DeRozan. That goes for Patty Mills, who's in a contract year. That goes for Devin Vassell, who was the highest draft pick since Tim Duncan. That goes with DeJounte Murray and Derrick White, who had almost their first full season as the backcourt of the future. I've still put Lonnie Walker's level of importance for this year at the very top of the Spurs priority list. He's actually played fairly well. To say he's had a career year is a little bit misleading because this is his third year as a professional. He played in 17 games in his first year, and then this year has been a shortened season. So career year, again, in air quotes and an asterisk. But he's really thrived, I think, in that 6-man role. Now, I'm curious to see what happens in the years coming if he stays in that 6-man role or if he moves back to the starting unit. I think a lot of that has to depend on what DeMar DeRozan actually does. Yeah. But he's shooting 36% from the 3-point line, which is it's respectable. It's not great. I think collectively, in order for him to be in your top 15 of all time, we'd like to see that migrate up to like a 42-ish, 42-ish percent. He does average at least a turnover a game, which is understandable because in that second unit, he's the primary ball handler, and usually he's with people like Rudy Gay and Drew Eubanks. So I give him a little bit of a pass for that. And he's averaging 1.6 assists. Again, that's a career high. He went, rebounds. He's now 2.5 rebounds a game. Here's what I like about Lonnie. Unequivocally, the best athlete on the team.
Oh,
hands down.
Maybe of all time that we've ever had on the Spurs.
Maybe in the history of all Spurs players.
Shout out James White. Maybe he's the other one, but we'll see.
My problem with him is he just doesn't do it every night. And we've seen it from him.
Yeah.
We've seen him do it. And when I say seen him do it, what I mean by it is show off his freakish athleticism that nobody in the National Basketball Association can stop. When Lonnie has a full head of steam and he takes off, there are few athletes in the world that can say this, but Lonnie's one of them. Why you should dunk this every single time. And this silly like, whoa, and you can hear him almost like Pau Gasol. You could hear Pau Gasol. It's not quite as dramatic, but you can hear Lonnie like, whoa, like do his thing. And then he like does like this weird finger roll. And I'm like, bro, dunk the ball, man. I don't know how else to say it. And Sean Elliott's like begging him to do this. Danny, what's up with your boy, man? Like, how do we get him to like, how do you get Kelvin's mentality in Lonnie's body? That's the
first off, how dare you? How dare you compare Pau and Lonnie? First off, let's start there.
Just in their volume of calling for calls, calling for fouls.
Here's the thing. Lonnie is my favorite player. He has been my favorite player, I think, since he was a rookie. I think I started beating that drum a long time ago to say, hey, you know what? Let's skip Austin. Let's bring him out now. Give him some minutes. And I don't want to go down that tangent right now because that'll be another 45-minute podcast that I know we don't have time for. But here's the thing. You and I have had this discussion, I think, either on Twitter or off Twitter or just talking like this. Yeah, if Lonnie had Keldon's mentality to where Keldon's fearless. He's a bulldog. He's going to get in there. He's aggressive. He's not afraid of whoever. I mean, he was going at Joel Embiid the other day.
Yeah.
He was going at him, like right in his chest to chest. Not afraid of him. And that's the thing with Lonnie. You remember that old comparison we had back in the 90s? Because I think this is something that will resonate with a lot of Spurs fans. It was always, hey, David Robinson, great talent, freakishly athletic. You know what? Maybe he might be the other most athletic person the Spurs have ever had. But remember, so it was always he could never just lead a team. He could never lead a team past the first or second round of the playoffs. He did that one year when we went to the Western Conference Finals against the Rockets. I
was at that game.
Public perception. Oh, I know. The public perception, right, was always, hey, he got his ass handed him to that series. I think people often forget the game 3 and 4 he had up in Houston. Yeah. But here's the thing. There was always that sentiment, and I think it was it was spoken in San Antonio and also nationwide. If David could play like Charles, if David thought and had that mindset of Charles Barkley, David would be the best player in the league.
Yeah.
Same thing with Lonnie. If Lonnie had that mindset of Keldon and was aggressive, was fearless, went to the basket, and you're right? No one can stay in front of him. The guy is freakishly athletic. He can jump out of the gym. He can turn any corner. And the thing about it was we saw everything Lonnie could do in both those two games again against Celtics and Sixers. Against Celtics, he really had his jumper going, right? His mid-range going. He was driving to the basket, slashing. He really led us against the Sixers. And I know, I mean, I kind of tend to agree with you. The Sixers kind of looked like a team like that knew, hey, their three best players aren't playing. We're kind of a night off. And it wasn't until the last 2 minutes of overtime they kind of kicked it in. But whenever Ben Simmons took over guarding Lonnie, all right, Lonnie just kind of
he pulled back,
became a wallflower. He became a wallflower, and he wasn't as aggressive. And you know what? Kudos to Ben. I mean, I know he may very well win Defensive Player of the Year, and that's a good learning lesson for Lonnie. All right, I'm not gonna take anything away from Ben Simmons. I think it's a good lesson for Lonnie, and hey, he was able to do a lot of things throughout the whole game. Whenever it came to nut crunch time, he wasn't able to execute. And I think that if he just has that mindset of, hey, Ben Simmons, Kawhi Leonard, whoever they throw at me, I'm going to go at them. And I have the skills to go at them. And physically, I can do this. And I have the green light. And once he kind of switches something mentally, I think he's going to be fine. And that's why I say, like, hey, I believe he's still going to be great. And I think he has the ability to be our best player, to lead us to where we want to get led again, all right? Whether we have our current best player on the roster now or the future draft pick or something. But I think he has that ability. And whether he ends up doing that for us or another team, he will.
So I'm probably on the more negative side of Lonnie. I don't deny his talent or his athletic ability and even his basketball skill set, but the mental thing is a huge deal for me. And I think you just hit the nail on the head. Like the violent take it by force. It's a biblical principle, but whatever. I mean, go at people. And when you make up your mind, like, I don't care who you put in front of me. And I've heard people say this last few days. It's like, well, he was, Ben Simmons was guarding him. Ben Simmons is probably the Defensive Player of the Year. And I'm like, I totally get that. I do. Ben Simmons is a 6'10". Like he's an anomaly. Like the guy is just out of control, talented. And he's a born and bred like defender. So, but to see Lonnie dominate for basically 3.5 quarters and then to go from domination, like there were times where in that Sixers game where I'm like, he's the best player on the court. Like he is the best player. He's better than Joel Embiid tonight.
He looked good.
And then to just have it disappear, like that can't happen. That cannot happen. And it happens at 22. And I want it to happen because I hope that it kept him up at night. I hope that it bothered him. I hope it bothered him against the Utah Jazz. I hope it bothers him in 3 months from now, because that was an opportunity where DeMar's not on the court. The only other person who was going to take the last shot or who was going to close the game was Rudy freaking Gay and Patty Mills. Like that was your moment, dude. Like that was your moment. And it was your moment on the grand stage because, as soon as they put Ben Simmons on him, Lonnie passed the ball out. And next thing you know, Keldon Johnson's going like a bat out of hell at Joel Embiid. He's pushing 1-on-2 up against you. And that's what stood out. And what we saw was Keldon going to the teeth of the Philadelphia 76ers defense and Lonnie basically disappearing. And I hated that narrative for him. I hated that was such an amazing game of domination. And that's what stood out to us is like, and I said something, it's like the freshman who plays on JV and dominates JV. And everybody's like, we got to move this kid up to varsity. And then you move him up to varsity. And then some senior's like, all right, I got him. And then now you're like, oh yeah, I forgot he's a freshman.
Yeah.
He's 22. He's got time to learn. I understand that. But that was probably the biggest moment of the year for Lonnie. And I'm sorry to say, but I think he kind of failed at it. And I hope he gets more opportunities because we need him to succeed in those moments. And the sooner that he can succeed in those moments, the better the Spurs will be in this. Denny, let's get some closing thoughts here. We've got just a few minutes left, but let's take a quick look at the Spurs schedule here to end the year. I'm very concerned because their last win that they had was against the Wizards in overtime on April the 26th. They lost against the Heat. They lost in overtime against the Celtics, lost in overtime against the 76ers. They lost against the Jazz yesterday. We're recording this on Tuesday night, so they lost against the Jazz, which is understandable. This is a brutal schedule. They got the Jazz again on Wednesday night. Again, the Jazz were without Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley, and they won going away.
Yeah.
On Friday night, they have probably I guess they got a Saturday against the Kings and Trailblazers. Be nice to at least get those two, because then
it would be.
Then they end the season on the Bucks, the Nets, the Knicks, the red hot New York Knicks, and then
please gag me with a spoon with that one.
and then they got the back to back with the Suns and the Suns. So probably gonna get the 10th seed no matter what. But what are you hoping for to end the season in these last 2, 4, 6, 8 games remaining?
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule like you are, and I think I read Tony Jones or one of the Jazz reporters said that Mitchell and Conley are going to be out again tomorrow. So, I mean, again, they have a golden opportunity to steal a game on the road against the first or second best team in the West right now. And whether they do it or not, you know what? They probably won't. I mean, and I'm not wanting to be negative. I don't want to be negative.
But let's call a spade a spade.
Based on the last 4 or 5 games, they've not played well. And I think we all kind of looked at that May schedule wrapping up, and we knew it was going to be a murderer's row, and we probably wouldn't get very many wins at all. So looking at the schedule right now, I don't think we're going to win tomorrow, all right, even though we probably should, considering they have Mitchell and Connolly out, but they still have Gobert and a host of other really good, solid role players. I can't stand Joe Ingles, by the way. I think I mentioned that last night.
I love Joe.
He and Ding were going at it. I thought Ding was going to take a swing. But yeah, I think the most winnable game we have coming up is against Sacramento. But you know what? We've always played so weird in that arena for the last couple of years. I think that it's named after a mattress. I don't remember what it's named now.
Sleep Train.
There we go. Something like that. Yeah. There we go. So that's the most winnable game, right? Then we have a back-to-back in Portland. Probably not going to win that one because I know Portland's fighting for their lives. They want to keep that 6th, 7th seed and stay out of the play-in. So I don't see them winning that one. I'm actually going to be at that game against Milwaukee. Going to see the Greek Freak in person. That'll be cool. I think I didn't happen to see. Did they beat the Nets earlier tonight?
I didn't even see that. Keep talking.
I know it was a close game, but I guess a lot of it depends also on
the Bucks won.
These teams. Yeah, the Bucks won, so that's good. So maybe at that point, I know they're still jockeying position for position also because them and the Nets are still going at it for 1 and 2 in the East. So if they have their full roster playing, I don't see them winning that game either, even though it's back in the AT&T Center, which, I mean, let's face it, I'd rather just play on the road the rest of the season. I don't want to ever play at home again for the rest of the season because we just don't play well there for whatever reason.
No joke.
And then at Brooklyn, at New York Knicks, that's going to be an 0-2, right? Over there in the East Coast. And then we wrap it up with a back-to-back back home against Phoenix. I think we take one of those games.
Suns. I do too.
I think we take one of those games.
I do too.
So right now I'm thinking we win 2 games out of the next 2, 4, 6, 7. So we're going to go 2-7 to wrap up the last 9 games. That's my projection. So even if that happens, I think that we're pretty solid on that 10 seed. So we're going to do a play-in game, and it's either going to be in Golden State or in Memphis, probably, right? One of those two. And I don't like our chances at either, honestly. I really don't.
Well, it's gonna, I'm still holding out hope that the Lakers fall and actually that the Trailblazers move up. And then can you imagine a scenario where maybe the Spurs get lucky and they win their first game against the more than likely Grizzlies, and then they get to play the Lakers in LA. Guess who's going to that game? Yeah,
that
buddy.
Would be sweet. We could have a Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
a live
The
pod
Pelicans,
from LA, right?
yeah, there you go. The Pelicans have, let's see what the Pelicans' schedule is, because they're the ones that are 2 games behind the Spurs right now.
Yeah, I think they're 2.5 or 3 games back. I think they lost tonight, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
they are. The Pelicans are 2 games back of the Spurs, and
Okay.
they did lose to the Warriors. They have the 76ers, the Hornets, the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, the Warriors again, and then the Los Angeles Lakers. So not as difficult as the Spurs, but it still has they still have their work cut out for them. They're going to have to catch up. So I do think that if the Spurs can win the 2 that you mentioned, and then maybe if they sneak another one, I think the Trailblazers would be the best bet, because I do think they're going to get one against Phoenix at home, and I do think they could win against the Kings. So if they can sneak that Trailblazers, I think they'd be very comfortably in at the 10 seed. But then again, it's just kicks and giggles at that point. I think the last thing I'm holding out for here is close the game with the young guys.
Yes, please.
Yeah, close the game. That's going to be the title of this podcast here. Close the game with the young guys. But let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that as these looks like we've got probably like 9 games left of this season, and then we can all go take a long nap and then get into the off season, which most important off season.
Important off season, absolutely.
Big off
Very
season.
Important off season.
We got way too much money to spend. That money's burning a hole.
52 million in cap space right now. I don't know how we're going to spend that.
That's
awful. I'm very curious. I would love to be a fly on the wall in the war room of GM Brian and RC, and I mean, we know who's really pulling the strings. We know that Pop's really the marionette out there, so he's really going to be the final say. So
they're going to give Rudy Gay $15 million a year. Just watch.
They're going to pull Powell out of retirement.
That's painful. Danny, thanks for joining me, man. It's good chatting with you about these San Antonio Spurs, bud.
As always.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. It's been a treat here. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Casa De Spurs. You can download this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's available on iTunes, Stitcher, Android devices, and YouTube, and pretty much anywhere that there's a podcast, we have it there. So please, it would be really groovy if you would comment and subscribe, or leave a comment and rate us. Sorry, comment and subscribe. Geez, YouTube generation. If you would leave a comment and give us a rating in our iTunes. But thanks for listening. You can follow me at The Hailstone on Twitter, and Danny is Danny_Sanders80. Is that correct? Did I say that right?
At Danny Sanders 80, yeah. At Danny Sanders 80, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then, of course, don't forget our good old co-host in Germany, Mr. Trace, Dina_dog. Always keep an eye out for him. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, everybody. And don't forget, no matter what, no matter how dark the days are, go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs, go.